it's Miss McDowell here again. Today, this video in particular is going to be dividing decimals by whole numbers, okay? In the slides and the screencast, you did see, again, some more retrieval process stuff, so I am going to do one of those problems with you, just because as a whole grade level, so not even just like my class, but when we talked as 5th grade teachers as a whole grade level, we really have noticed that, this seems to be the type of problem that we struggle with the most, and so we want to just kind of make sure we're still understanding that in terms of our fraction content. Okay, so this says Miss James wanted to divide 2 hours of computer time equally among 10 students. What fraction of an hour of computer time will each student get? Okay, and so remember when we write our division equations, we write them as what's being divided into equal groups of like what? Okay, so our dividend would go first. So we're splitting 2 hours up among 10 people. So 10 will be that dividend, the number we're dividing into. And so our equation will be 2 divided by 10. Okay, now you might be thinking, how do I write that? Like what does that value look like? Because setting it up like this doesn't do much for me because 2 can't go into 10. So like what would I do? How would I do that? And so what you're really thinking is, remember, this first number or this dividend can be your numerator, and your divisor, your second number, is actually your denominator. So remember, fractions are just like division symbols, but with numbers. And so this is saying this is 2 divided by 10. Another little trick here is this one's talking about people, and we don't like to split up people. Okay. And then another little hint here that your number was going to be less than 1, or your answer was going to be less than 1, is the question literally asks, what fraction of an hour? So you can already assume that your answer is not going to be a whole number or an improper fraction of something greater than 10. I think for y'all, this one was multiple choice, and like D, if I remember correctly, was 10 divided by 2. So that would have been splitting up 10 people over 2 hours, which doesn't really make much sense. You're really splitting up 2 hours between 10 people. And so when you think about that, 10 out of 2, would have, like, how many times can 2 go into 10? That would give you 5, and you're really looking for what fraction of an hour, so you wouldn't want a whole number. If you don't see this as an answer choice, though, don't assume your answer is incorrect or wrong, because this can be simplified. Neither of these are prime, so we can simplify it down. They're both even, so the easiest way to simplify is probably to divide by 2. So divide each of them by 2. What you're really doing is dividing by 1 whole. How many times can 2 go into 2? Once. How many times can 2 go into 10? 5 times. So your equivalent fraction would be 1/5, or 1/5 of an hour. And if you wanted a challenge, you could try to figure out how much 1/5 of an hour is, like how many minutes that actually is. And if you think about that, 1/5 of an hour, or 1/5 of 60 minutes, I'm literally saying the equation for you. Remember what of means usually for us. 1/5 of 60 minutes is also equal to 1/5 times 60. Remember, we can just put 60 over 1. 1 times 60 is 60. 5 times 1 is 1. How many times can 5 go into 60? If you know your facts of 12, you would know that it's 12. So 1/5 of an hour would be 12 minutes. Each person would get 12 minutes, okay? And that's something you might see as like a challenge problem or something. All right, so we're going to keep moving. Instead of just doing like more fraction review, we're going to shift over to actually dividing decimals by whole numbers as opposed to whole numbers by decimals. Okay, so I'm going to show you in model form for the first few, and then the last 2 I will show you using standard algorithm, which you're going to be amazed at like how simple it is. I think some of you maybe saw it in the screencast, but it wasn't quite as step-by-step as moving it the wrong way, as we wanted it to be, and so I'm going to do that here for you. Okay, so we have 5/10 divided by 2, so we are splitting 5/10 over 2 groups. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw my groups first. I'm not going to be showing you Now I can't think of it. Hundredths grids, just because on a whiteboard it's so difficult to draw. But hopefully you'll get the opportunity to see more examples of those later. If you really like the hundredths grid method of doing it, you're welcome to try it on your own. Okay, so I really just drew my two groups. When you're thinking about this, it's very similar to the way you learned how to do division initially in 4th grade, where you literally, okay, how many equal groups do we want? We want 2 equal groups. Well, what am I splitting up? I'm splitting up 5 or whatever the number was between 2 equal groups. Here, we're just dealing with less than wholes or parts of numbers, like with 2 and 4 tenths, where we have part of a whole or a whole and then still a part left over. Same concept. Our dots and pictures are just going to represent parts of wholes instead of wholes. Okay, and so when we look at this one, we have 5 tenths. Okay, and so when we think about 5 tenths, I am going to represent all of my tenths, and I'll go ahead and like show you this down here. Tenths are going to be represented like that, like a rod. Okay, when you think about like a 10 rod that we've seen in class, or 10 of your little pop cubes stuck together. And then our hundredths, if you watch the screencast, you'll notice our hundredths are represented as little boxes. Sometimes they're little dots. So again, just thinking about those as a little cube out of your hundredths grid, just one instead of the whole rod, or like a little pop cube that you might see. Okay, so that's how we're going to represent tenths and hundredths in our pictures. Okay, so I'm trying to split these 5 tenths evenly among 2 groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and put an equal amount of tenths in each of my groups until I can't any longer. Okay, and hopefully this pink will show up so you can really see it. All right, and so I'm going to go and I'm just going to start counting. 1 tenth. So I gave 1 tenth to that one. I need to give another tenth to this one. 2 tenths. 3 tenths, 4 tenths. All right, now watch this. 5 tenths. Oh no, I've put an extra tenth rod in this group, and I can't do that because I maxed out at 5 tenths. Notice how I have 1 tenth, 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths, and all I have is 5 tenths, but my groups aren't even. And the whole point is for me to figure out what is 5 tenths divided by 2, or what is 5 tenths split into 2 even groups, okay? So I can't do that. But I can repurpose this tenth. I have 1 tenth left, and I know that in each of my tenths, there are 10 hundredths, okay? So in 1 tenth, there are 10 hundredths. So what I'm really gonna do is now start using my hundredths, okay? For this 1 tenth equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? And I'm just using little dots, okay? So I know I'm now trading out that last tenth rod that I have to be actually 10 hundredths, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? So now I've gotten to my 10. I've used my 4 tenths and then my 10 hundredths, which I know is also equivalent to just my 5 tenths. I've used all of them, and I have an equal amount in each, okay? And so now all I have to do is count how much is in one group. All right, so I have 2 tenths, okay? And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hundredths. So I know that 5 tenths divided by 2 is 25 hundredths. You can also kind of think about it like money. If you have 50 cents and you split that among 2 groups, or you split it among 2 people, split it in half, you'd end up having 25 cents and 25 cents. Okay, so we're going to try the next one using the models as well, and then we'll try standard on the next 2. Can you see that group? No, you can't. I'm sorry. I think I need to write in darker colors. Okay. Let's see if this one works. Yeah, okay. Oh, I don't think my group should be that big because I'm doing 4 this time and not 2. So drawing my number of groups, here I have 4 groups. They don't have to look even. I know that they're going to end up being equal groups, okay? So here what I'm going to do again is use my tenths until I can't anymore. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, I've used all my tenths. But I haven't filled each group. So I can't do that. So what I really need to do for this one is a little bit different. I know that it's 32 hundredths, so I'm just going to do it as 32 hundredths. I'm just going to keep doing it until I hit 32, and hopefully I end up with the same amount in each little square. So we'll see. So 100, 200, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Oh, and I got it in each little thing each time, so I know it went in evenly. Now all I have to do is count my parts. I don't have any wholes or any hundredths here. I'm sorry, any wholes or any tenths here. I have some hundredths. Okay, and so I'm actually going to write this down here because it's getting really close to my next equation, and I don't want that to happen. So I have no tenths, but I need to count up what how many hundredths are in one little circle or one little group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 hundredths. So 32 hundredths divided by 4 is actually equal to 8 hundredths. All right, now this one I'm going to show you using standard algorithm. Okay, so when I look at this one, I'm dividing 2 and 4 tenths by the whole number 8. And so what I'm really doing here is I am splitting up 2 and 4 tenths among 8 equal groups, okay? But I'm going to show you standard algorithm. Now, when you think about this, you might be thinking, hey, 2 has a hole in it. It does. Remember, decimals can have holes in it. It just means they're not like fully holes. So we still have that part of a tenth. So my 2 and 4 tenths goes in my house, and my 8 holes go on the outside, okay? Now, this is a little bit different. If your decimal is only in your house, meaning your dividend, the first number in your equation, is the only number that has a decimal, meaning you're not doing decimal divided by decimal. You are only doing it so it's decimal divided by a whole number. You don't have to shift your decimal place value at all. All you have to do is carry it up. Okay? Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, 8 can't go into 2 and 8 can't go into 4 tenths. You're going to start thinking about it as if it's just the whole number 24. Okay? So just think about it like it's the whole number 24. Can 8 go into 2? No, it can't. It goes in 0 times. Can 8 go into 24? Yes, it can. How many times? 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. We're left with 0. So our answer to 2 and 4 tenths divided by 8 is just 3 tenths. Okay? Pretty interesting, huh? Almost a little bit easier than dividing whole numbers by decimals when you have to shift the decimal place value. All right, for our word problem, I'm just going to erase this little part here just so that I have enough room. Okay, we're going to do this one standard algorithm too. So Josh has 4 and 5 tenths bags of candy to share among himself and 8 friends. How much of a bag of candy does each friend get? Okay, so we're going to write our equation first. Think about what we're splitting up. Remember our little trick of we don't split up people. And so when we think about it, it's really going to be 4 and 5 tenths divided by not 8. That's the number I see in my problem, but it's not the actual number I'm dividing by because it's among himself and 8 friends. So himself plus 8 friends would be 9. So 4 and 5 tenths divided by 9. Okay? Now, my dividend is my decimal, so it's going to go into my house. I have my 4 and 5 tenths here being divided by 9. Okay? I don't have a decimal in my divisor, the number I'm dividing by. So I don't have to shift any place value. All I have to do is carry my decimal up. All right. When I think about that, I'm thinking how many times can 9 go into 4? It goes in 0 times. And then I just carry down my 5. How many times can 9 go into 45? Well, 9 can go into 45 5 times. Okay. 9 times 5 is 45. So I have nothing left over. And so each friend gets 5/10 of a bag of candy. Okay, and you can also write, remember, 5/10 like this, or you know that each friend maybe gets 1/2 of a bag of candy because 5 is half of 10. Okay. All right, so when you think about that, that also makes sense. There was another kind of hint in my word problem here to tell me that I wasn't going to get a whole number. How much of a bag of candy, not how many bags of candy. So we'll keep working on this next week. If you have any questions, let us know. But feel free to try the practice after this, and then also it's pretty short. There is a Google Forms quiz, but that's mixed, so be careful about that. That is dividing decimals by whole numbers and whole numbers by decimals. That is optional, and so don't feel obligated or like you have to do that right now. Okay, let us know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye-bye.